We are on air.
I will call to order our study session for July 13th. First item is a discussion about the Leadership Academy. It's a debrief. And that will be presented by Dan Harris and some of the Academy members.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Mayor Gamba, Council, for having me here this evening. My name is Dan Harris. I'm an administrative specialist with the City Manager's Office. I use he, they pronouns, and I oversee the Milwaukee Leadership Academy. I do have a presentation prepared for that, but one of our students, one of our participants, Nikki Storm, is here with us tonight, and Nikki has some obligations immediately after this meeting. So in the interest of being flexible, I thought we might lead off with Nikki's thoughts on the class. And so Nikki, if you'd like to take it away.
So, hi everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Nikki Storm, and I have lived in Milwaukee for a very long time. As part of my sort of commitment to being involved in my community, I decided to become a part of the Leadership Academy, and that is to really get a sense of how our city works and how hard it works. And what I discovered over, was it a year, Dan? Roughly, give or take. And what I discovered is that there are lots and lots and lots of moving parts to a city at work. And I really thank the sort of the Leadership Academy for giving me that perspective. I also really appreciated how every sort of part in the city or every program in the city had sort of equity at its center. And whether we're talking about the, attainable housing or the climate action plan, I feel like those areas of where you think equity wouldn't need be is there. And it gives you a sense of how your city works. It gives you really opens your eyes to how hard everybody works that works for this city. And to get anything to happen in the city takes a lot of work. And so I really appreciated my time with the Leadership Academy and with Dan and Stefan and all of the other participants. It was very eye-opening, and I'm not sure if there's anything in particular, Dan, you'd like me to say, other than I enjoyed my time. I have recommended it to friends, just because it really does give you a sense of how your city works and how it's sort of working for you and your community, whether you're BIPOC or not. And so I really get a feeling of safety through information. And so I really felt that was a really good place for me to gain clarity and feel safe about how our city is moving in the direction that it's going.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Nikki. I didn't have anything in particular for you, but I don't know if council has any questions they'd like to ask or anything they'd like to say. But just again, thank you so much for participating in the class. It was an absolute pleasure getting to work with you. And I'm gonna hush now in case
Likewise.
Anyone else has anything.
Any questions or comments, Council? Kathy, go ahead. Oh.
Yeah, that's the highest possible praise you could give, Nikki, to recommend it to others. And I know I've had questions from folks saying, is it going to happen again? And I've said, we do rely on a volunteer to really help make this happen in part. So I'm not going to say yes for sure, but now it sounds like we do have a confirmation from Stefan, and I know Dan is in as well. So thank you. Thank you for recommending it. I'm so glad to hear that it was a positive experience for you. And I hope we see your name on top of some applications and for boards and commissions in the future.
Oh, yes, me too.
Good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great. And I think that the more people we kind of know how our city works, the better.
Yeah, for sure. Lisa, go ahead.
Well, I'd second a lot of what Kathy said, and you're the second storm to appear before us in recent months. So congratulations too on your son as being a student. I was just curious as to whether you could have done it if it were live meetings as well, or did the fact that it was remote make it easier for you to do it? Would you have preferred live meetings, et cetera? I'd just like your thoughts on that.
I think at first I kind of feel two ways about it. One, I really enjoyed the people that I worked with and during Leadership Academy, and would love to sort of see their whole person. And so I do miss meeting. I did miss that sort of human connection. But some instances when it was, dark at 5 o'clock, and it was nice to have a meeting. It was nice to have that option. Would I prefer it to be online? No. I really enjoy having a meeting, meeting with people, building relationships. And I feel like, Dan, we did a pretty good job of that, even if we were just online.
I like to think we did. I mean, I'm glad to hear that was your experience of it as well. I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the presentation, but I really think this is a great program for a hybrid model with an online component, so that people can still tune in and ask questions and that. But we miss so much when we're not in person together. So I think where we're leaning is going back to in person, but still having a Zoom component.
Yeah, I think that would be great. But I miss those meetings.
Yeah.
You?
Absolutely. Anything
Anybody
else?
Again, thank you for doing it, for putting the time and the interest and the effort. It does matter a lot that folks get more engaged, and it makes sort of a more informed group of people to work on our committees and commissions down the road. So it's really important, and thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a great experience.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nikki. Thanks for being here with us. I'm not going to, I hope as I do this, I'm not kicking you out of the meeting. Been only using Zoom for 1.5 years, so. No,
I'm going to go ahead if it's okay. If you need me, I have a game to go to.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to everyone and have a great summer.
Thanks so much. Have a good night, Nikki.
Okay, you too. Thanks, everybody.
Alrighty. So with that, chat. Cool. All right. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen, and that's the one there. Share that, and we're going to throw it up here. And are we getting right now the big screen or the notes screen? Big screen? Oh, love that. Love to get the big screen. All right. So with this, this is the presentation, the debrief on the 2020 through 2021 Milwaukee Leadership Academy. As I said, my name is Dan Harris. My colleague Stefan Lashbrook is not able to be with us here this evening. Stefan and his wife Lisa are getting ready to celebrate their 20th year of marriage, so congratulations to them. Also, we only have, it looks like, 2 of the students, Nikki Storm, who is just here with us, and then also Bryant Royal, who I see is in the audience. So hello to you, Bryant. For all of the other students who weren't able to attend this evening, I just want to say thank you all so much, because this program really doesn't happen without people getting involved. And I hope that wherever you are out there, you're enjoying this beautiful, not too hot July evening. So tonight, I'm going to run us through a little bit of a debrief. As I said, we're going to talk about the background of this program, which I believe most of this council was here for when it was established. We'll talk about the class structure, what we did for recruitment and retention, our plans for future years. We'll get to hear from Bryant, who I believe has some things to say about his experience, and then room for questions and feedback from the council. So this program was started here in Milwaukee in 2019. We just finished our second year of the program. It is very similar to different leadership academies or civic engagement academies. They're called different things in different cities, but it's a fairly common program. It's an opportunity for people who either live in Milwaukee or else have an interest in the Milwaukee community to come in and learn about how the city functions. And we do that through monthly sessions where city staff and occasionally community volunteers come in and speak with the students about how the city works. The whole idea here is to create accessible, transparent government. I know that Stefan, in earlier iterations of this, has talked about it being part of his vision to support a kind of direct democracy. You know, I don't think that that's really my place to get into as a staff member, but what I will say is that, you know, the more informed population we have, the better it is for everybody. So I think this is a really excellent opportunity to do that. The classes, the structure varied somewhat from month to month, but generally the way that we would do this is that we would start with a social period for about a half an hour before class. Some of those were pretty well attended. Sometimes it was just so nice outside and people didn't quite make it, but you know, we'd have good conversations, informal conversations, an opportunity to socialize and get to know each other. Then we would do housekeeping, which generally consisted of any major announcements coming up in the city, as well as any openings for boards and commissions, or rather boards and committees, just that one commission. We talk about the reading discussion, and I get into this a little bit later in the presentation, but essentially what we would do each month is that we put people into discussion groups based on their NDAs so that people would have an opportunity to get to know their neighbors better. And then hopefully get more involved as a team. This was a little hit and miss, and as I said, I'll talk about that when we get to the end of course survey results. But we would each month have an assigned reading and then time for discussion of that reading in class. We'd have a little break for them, a presentation from one city department and then another. So for instance, we did emergency management and public safety one month. Another month it was planning and community development. Tried to find synergy between the departments that we were having present. And then ending with final thoughts and what Stefan likes to call aha moments, an opportunity for students to say, hey, you know, that's something I really didn't know. Aha, that's how piping gets laid in the city of Milwaukee. Aha, that's the way that we contract out fire services, what have you. As far as recruitment, the main priority this last year was to really look at diversifying participation in civic life. And that can mean a variety of things. Certainly, racial and ethnic diversity are part of that, but I think it's important also to consider education, to consider household status, whether somebody is owning or renting, gender, certainly, all parts of that. So we advertised in the pilot. We reached out through the web and through our social media accounts. And then also through, with Anne's assistance, through the BIPOC listening sessions last year. And we got a really solid student pool. We recruited 18 students in total at the start. And by the time that we finished, I think 3 had dropped out, but 15 of them had completed 5 of the 7 classes, or excuse me, 5 of the 8 classes, which is pretty solid retention for an online class in the middle of a pandemic, I think. This year, I'm going to try some things that are a little bit different. I do have time scheduled already to table at the farmers market, and then I'm also going to be working with the library, with the Milwaukee Center, and with the Wichita Center to do some tabling and to do some advertising for the program there, really try to broaden that reach even further. Also, I'm going to be heavily leaning, as Nikki said, she has shared information about the class with friends and people that she knows. And I'm going to be reaching out to the past 2 years of student class lists to ask them to do the same. Because really one of the things that we're finding is that word of mouth is a huge, huge, huge recruitment tool, particularly for this kind of a program where you're asking people to come and volunteer an hour or 2 a month from their already busy lives. So if somebody who they know says, hey, it was actually a worthwhile use of my time, probably be a good use of yours, even better. In terms of that recruitment and retention, I do want to point out a couple of things here. I think we did really well in terms of racial and ethnic diversity. Also, I was pleased to see that we were able to get about a third of the class, people who are renting here in Milwaukee. I think sometimes there's this notion that if somebody hasn't purchased property in the city or hasn't been able to purchase property in the city, that they're somehow not part of the community, and that's just misguided. I mean, not that anybody here has suggested that, but anybody I think who gets that into their head has it wrong, because there are people who are renting here who are every bit as much a part of Milwaukee and every bit as much Milwaukeeans as any property owner. So really pleased to see that. One area where I think we really fell short was in terms of recruitment of people who did not have post-high school degrees. So whether that's college or graduate school or technical school or whatever else, we actually only had 2 students in the class with, I don't want to say just, because that's dismissive, but without college degrees. And so that's something that we're really looking at. It's been a big spur in terms of widening the in-person recruitment. I really anticipate that working with the library and again working with the Wichita Center is going to make a difference on that. You don't need a college degree to be active in local government. You don't need to own property here to be a part of the community. And that's really the message that we want to get out, is that Milwaukee is for everybody, and the Milwaukee Leadership Academy in particular is an open door. So the end of course survey, as I said, this was distributed, get this, at the end of the course. What an appropriate time. It was a SurveyMonkey survey, and I sent it out by email. There were 15 questions as well as some demographic ones, just trying to see who actually finished the course and who actually took the time to do the survey. Again, of the 15 students who made it through at least 5 classes, 8 of them responded, which is a pretty solid 8 of 15, pretty solid response rate. Only 7 of those responses are actually included in the figures in the staff report, because one came in after the staff report had been published. But I will say that the responses from that respondent were more or less in line with the others. There wasn't anything, it wasn't an outlier. Students were generally satisfied with the class structure and the pacing and the content. And people were saying that they were more interested in becoming involved in the civic life of the city after the class than they were before, which is one of the major driving goals of the course. This was, I want to emphasize, not strictly in boards, committees, and the commission, but 3 people applied, 2 were selected and are currently serving on BCs. So that's great for them, glad to have them. Other folks were looking at getting more involved with their NDAs or more involved with other maybe nonprofits or volunteer groups in the community, and that's fantastic too. We'd love to see them involved directly in more formal city leadership where people are comfortable to do that and where they feel that that's where they'd like to contribute to the community. But also if somebody goes to this class and says, wow, hey, I'd really like to get involved with CERT, or maybe I can work on setting up a free library in my neighborhood. Great, that's wonderful participation too. Discussion groups, this is one thing that we really, I don't know, we need to retool it for next year, because I sorted everybody into the discussion groups based on neighborhoods, like I said. And for me, a lot of what that was feedback from the BIPOC listening sessions, because something that came out of that I'm sorry to say I'd never considered is that people were saying, I see these invitations to come to neighborhood association meetings in the pilot. I see these invitations online to come to this or that or the other function. And I think, well, that's really not for me. They're not really inviting me. And so I wanted to be just as welcoming as possible, and I wanted to really give people an opportunity to interact with their neighbors. What we found in terms of actual feedback on that is that a lot of the discussion groups either didn't meet or they had a pretty high defection rate, so that we ended up with maybe 2 people of a group of 4 continuing to meet regularly throughout. People were doing the readings, and I know that because people were responding in class and had meaningful questions and meaningful commentary to contribute, but The discussion groups, I've talked with Stefan, and what we're looking at doing this coming year, rather than mandating these groups, is giving people the opportunity to opt into them and to continue the discussions, to continue the in-class discussions just in a slightly different way, basically so that we're not going to have to rely so much on people having done the reading in advance. So that brings us right to proposed changes for future years. As I alluded to earlier, hybrid classes are the way of the future, and I really think this is a great program for specifically a hybrid model. Something that we're going to be looking at is either using an iPad or a laptop for when we go on field trips. I know in past years, so for example, the picture that's on screen right now shows a tour that the first year's class took of the public safety building. And for us to be able to do that and to still have meaningful participation for people who are joining us online, that's going to require some kind of a mobile camera. But fortunately, we live in an age where everybody has a mobile camera. Most people have a mobile camera in their pocket. So I think we're going to be able to figure that out without too much difficulty. There too, though, I will say that we got some feedback from several of particularly the working parents in the cohort, that they would not have been able to participate without that online option. So again, in the interest of making this a welcoming and accessible class, really, really want to make sure that we don't completely do away with it. Although I think it is important to get back to in-person meeting as much as we're able to. To that end, we're also looking at kind of a combination of a cohort and a drop-in model. So what Milwaukee has done historically is had people apply for the program, sign up, come to these classes. And then beyond that, we didn't distribute any information until the following year. This year, what I would like to do is to have that cohort, have people who apply so that we can bring them in and we can actually have good information about who's in the class, build those relationships, and invite them to the in-person sessions. Not that they wouldn't be welcome to participate online on any given night or entirely if that's what they chose to do. But reserve that online space primarily for people who want to drop in and who say like, well, so I hear tonight they're talking about the police department. I'm interested in that. I'd like to come learn about it. Or tonight they're talking about finance. How does a city budget work? I've got an hour. Let me sit in on it. That way, nobody feels that they have to sign up and have to commit to 7 to 8 months of monthly classes to still learn and to still get something out of the program. But again, the idea is that we would still have people apply so that we know how many people are coming in person. We would distribute that in-person information to the applied class and to the cohort. There again, I've talked about voluntary discussion groups. Nobody should be forced into reading groups. We're adults, and although this is a school-like situation, we're outside of school. So anybody who would like to participate, I think there is value in the readings and there is value in those discussion groups, but we're going to shake that up a little bit. Also, the first year applications were distributed in Spanish. This last year, going into Zoom at the start of the pandemic, I made the decision, just in terms of resources, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to provide adequate support in Spanish. Going back, though, this being the second year, Stefan's third year with the program, I think it's important that we do go back to offering the applications in Spanish. So we have that draft still saved. We're going back to it. Again, the whole idea is accessibility. And then visits from City Council. One of the major pieces of feedback that we got from the class was that people felt that they wanted to know more about what it actually is to be a city councilor, what it actually is to be a member of the Planning Commission. So something that I would like to solicit from the council, if not now, then maybe through email later, is whether you're able and willing to come and attend at least one or two of the classes. And I know that we have concerns about quorum, so maybe we can split that up into pairs or something. We can figure that out. But basically, I'd like to create an opportunity for you as the elected officials and as the head of the city to come and speak to the class if you're willing and able to accommodate that in your schedules, because the students are really interested to hear what it is that you have to say and what your vision is for the city. And so if there's an opportunity for you to come and be with them directly, I know I would certainly appreciate it. And I think I speak for, well, people who haven't applied yet. I don't know. I speak for last year's class in saying that they would have too, had I but opened that door. So anyhow, that is me talking for several minutes. So I am going to turn this over right now. I'm going to stop my screen sharing. There we go. Stop share. I'm going to stop my screen sharing, and I am going to turn this over to Bryant for our Student Voices segment. Mr. Royal, if you are able to unmute, the floor is yours, and if not, then I can unmute you. Hello, hello. Bryant, looks like you might have frozen. Are you able to hear us? There you go.
Thank you for the opportunity to join. I'm going to turn my camera off because of my internet connection issues, but thank you for the opportunity to join. I've appreciated your presentation, Dan.
Thank you.
And I guess I don't have any, real remarks, formal remarks to present other than just saying I've appreciated the opportunity to be a part of this group, the connection to my fellow community members, as well as the opportunity to learn more about kind of how our community works. I am a newer member to the community, moving from Northeast Portland about 2 years ago. And so it's just been a rich opportunity. It's been a very unique opportunity with the pandemic layered on top of it, but it again has been a very rich opportunity, and I do look forward to the chance to meet with my fellow cohort members at some point, because we did have the opportunity to build connections was very ingrained in this. Even though I did struggle, I'm not technically in Milwaukee, so I don't have a neighborhood association to connect my group with. And so we were one of the groups that didn't hold a strong connection. But with the entire group in our monthly meetings, I think there were some really strong connections and relationships forged. And again, look forward to meeting with a lot of my members in person. So thank you for this chance to be a part of this group, and any more support you can give to this is always appreciated. Yeah, I can't say more to Dan and what he did to put this on, and to my fellow community members to be a part of it and make it such a rich and valuable experience. So thank you.
Dan, in the participants list, there's an Anna, who at one point had her hand raised. Is that a member of the class? And you're muted, Dan.
It is. Welcome, welcome. We have another student joining us. Real quick, Bryant, thank you so much for that. More student voices. Anna, please go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan and everyone. My name is Ana Tijerina-Esquino. I was one of the participants at this year's Milwaukee Leadership Academy. And I really had a really great experience. I will admit, I think the application was posted on a Facebook Milwaukee BIPOC group, and I applied on a bit of a whim because I am very interested in politics, and I'm a recent college grad that just graduated with civil engineering. So it felt like there was a lot that I wanted to learn. And I'll admit, I learned so much more than I expected, because I thought like I already knew a lot about how politics worked. And I did, but I learned how to get involved in more ways. Seeing the background, all the things that are happening in the city, in the background, all the planning and all the different individual roles, meeting the city manager, all of that was really, really incredible. And then it's like, we actually got to learn like, well, if you want to comment about this, that, or the other, what are your avenues to be heard, essentially, in the city of Milwaukee? And then I'll just like say as a side, I'm currently a renter, but I love Milwaukee so much, and this group, both getting to meet a lot of the other students and interact with them, and also interact with Dan and Stephen and all of the people that visited. It really like made me love Milwaukee more. It like lit up that part of me, because now I feel like I recognize a lot of the ways in which Milwaukee is unique and progressive and does like reflect my values. So I absolutely loved the course. I would like to see it continue. I really do think it fills a really important gap in teaching people how they can have their voice heard, because as I'm sure you all know, it is very, very complicated from the outside. It sometimes seems as if even if you send an email, it might just get lost in the ether. So really fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
So just to put it out there for any students who feel like they didn't learn enough about politics, and Stan did mention that in his presentation as a place that was lacking, I'm always happy to meet with community members anytime. Coffee or beer, none of the above, go for a walk, whatever. I would love to talk with any of you that have questions about what it's like to serve on council, or whatever it is you feel didn't get covered in the course. So invitation is there.
And I think it would be great, Dan, if you took all these amazing people with you to everything you did and had them just talk about the program, because thank you so much, Shauna, and everyone who's been speaking tonight. It's really lovely to hear how you received the information.
I do feel somewhat obligated to say that nobody was paid for their testimony this evening, and that all students had the opportunity to come and speak. So while I certainly hope that this is reflective of the wider audience, this is reflective of 3 of the 15. That actually brings me to the end of my part of this presentation. So if there are questions or comments or feedback from council, I'd love to hear it. And otherwise, that's all I've got.
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate you being inclusive, especially about not having to have a degree to participate in these types of things, because I think a lot of people do get stuck in that rut. I have a couple questions. What's the average age of the student that participates in this? And the second part is, do you have to be 18 or older? Are we able to like go into Milwaukee High School and get kids to participate, like high school juniors and seniors to participate, to start making that feeder system into local government?
Well, so thank you very much, Councillor Nicodemus. To your first question, I actually didn't, that was one piece of demographic data that I did not collect, was specific ages. The class ranged in age from their mid to late 20s to later adulthood. We have in the first year, we had one or two high school students who did participate. 4. Wow, we'll see, and that's what
We
that's
originally
what I get for
had 4 sign up. So we originally had 4 sign up. Stefan was actually going to lead a separate process to try and engage with the students to get them more tied in as their own cohort. And happy to take that back as trying to do that again in the future. I think part of what happened was COVID. It was really hard to figure out how to get students into this process in that way. But it absolutely is something we tried last time. And we did have a couple of people who were very successful in this and actually have continued to be active in the Milwaukee area since.
Yeah. Some of them are on our boards and commissions. Well, our boards. I don't think any of them are on the planning commission.
But yes is the short answer. We can reach out to younger people. Oh, I did want to say as well, I'm sorry, Brenna Cruz, who is both a staff member and also was a student this last year, asked me to pass on as part of Student Voices, so I'm late, that she found it to be a very useful orientation to departments outside of the one where she's working. So you don't just have to be a resident or a community member or somebody who even lives near Milwaukee. You can also be a staff member and get something from it.
So we're planning on running this again, and we're planning on having Dan continue to be an amazing resource in this process. Stefan is continuing, is my understanding. So with that, I'm actually going to close it out, but we're going to plan on having a third class. Oh, Counselor Heisey.
I was just wondering when you were going to begin the recruitment process, because I am already getting questions about it. So it'd be good if I could give people a time frame.
Sure. So the website is up currently, although it does say that applications have not opened yet. So if anybody is interested, and if they'd like to send me an email, and that's harrisd@milwaukeeoregon.gov. It also appears on the first page of these slides, which are in the meeting packet, or which will be in the meeting packet. I can make sure to get them on the list for when we do send those out. The first tabling event is going to be on July 25th. So by then, I will have applications available in English and Spanish. They're not, I was waiting until after tonight to see if there was any major feedback that we needed to incorporate in that.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I'm glad to hear that you're not completely abandoning the reading group idea. I think, that was probably complicated by COVID too. And, I think, if people could have met on each other's porches and had a beer and discussed the reading, it might have, been more conducive. So I do hope that, I'm glad to hear that you're going to keep that in and try some new variants on it, because I think that could be a useful, connection maker for smaller groups of people who live closer to each other.
Yeah, thank you. I think the idea has merit. It's just, we just need to find exactly what the right formula is, and we'll keep tinkering. We'll get there. Anything else?
And I think that, the request for council or council members to show up, I suspect most, if not all, of the council would be happy to do that. Probably not every single meeting. We couldn't do that anyway. But on some kind of rotating basis. All right. Well, if that's everything, we will move on to the next. Thanks very much, Dan. Great job.
Thank you all. Take care.
Our next item is our council goal update on equity, justice, and inclusion, and will be presented by our equity program manager, John Hennington.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the time this evening to give you an update on the equity program for the city of Milwaukee. When I last saw you all about a month and a half ago, we talked about our equity steering committee and plans to begin recruitment for that. That process has begun. And as part of that process, we need an ordinance. And so we have circulated a draft ordinance for the Equity Steering Committee. It is just a draft at this point. I believe it is on the agenda for August 13th for a first reading. There was some feedback on the initial draft that I've made some adjustments, so I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen with an edit that I believe answered one of the questions that I received earlier today. So let me just go ahead and share that. And can everyone more or less see that? Okay. I don't know the best way to do this. It's my first time presenting an ordinance to you. Would you like it read, or what's the easiest way to go through this?
John, it might help if you zoom in a little bit. It's pretty small.
Zoom in. Thank you.
I suspect most of us read it. What were the changes that were made?
So there was a question about just the in 217.040 not being very specific as to what we meant by municipal code. And so the recommended change there was this language: abide by the guidelines. Let me get this right. Established for all city boards and committees in the Milwaukee Municipal Code, MMC, Chapter 2.10, and the city's board and committees Code of Conduct. I believe Councilor Beatty, you had a concern about that particular section, so I just wanted to see if that covers what you were thinking, or if there are additional changes that you think might be necessary there for clarity.
No, I think that's perfect. I just felt like it was not specific enough, and it only mentioned code, and it wasn't clear that our code of conduct was actually in the code. So you've kind of addressed both of those things. So no, I think that looks great.
Thanks to Scott for that suggested change. Just wanted to get your feedback on the draft as it stands. We have a little time before this is on the agenda formally for you, but we wanted to just get your thoughts on this committee. The goal for this committee is to have a group that the city can interface with for issues regarding our equity, inclusion, and justice goals. There are so many possible things for this group to take on. Our hope is that they will be busy but not overloaded. I think that the challenge will be not to give them too much to do. And so defining their scope clearly will be, I think, an important part of this process. But ultimately, the language here is up to you. And so we wanted to give you some time to take a look at it and get your thoughts and feedback on it. Councilor Beatty?
Yeah, I did have one other question, which was in the, in 22.22.010 establishment part where you're talking about their roles and responsibilities. In B, you say assess the implementation of the diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan. So I'm not surprised that such a plan is part of your what you're working on, but I guess it's the first time we've actually seen a reference to it. So are they not going to be involved in helping shape the plan only on the implementation side, or are they also going to be involved in helping shape the plan?
It's my belief that they would be helping shape the plan. So if we need to clarify that in the language, I'm happy to make an adjustment there. And the creation and implementation?
Yeah, partner in the creation and implementation or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, there we are. Any concerns with that language or additional thoughts about that?
I just had some additional thoughts around both that and C, where we're talking about partnering and guiding and assessing whether or not that sounds like a lot of responsibility potentially. And oftentimes when we do this kind of strategic plan work, it's that kind of work that we hire consultants to really do the bulk of the heavy lifting on, and then we receive considerable input and shaping from the committee itself. So is that the intention here as well? Or are you really thinking that these are the folks that are going to do the creating of these things?
We had not settled on precisely the process in terms of hiring a consultant, but what I envision is that they would be the ones that we would be consulting with, but they would not be doing the actual creation work, but that the feedback about what should be there, what shouldn't be there, how it's worded, would come from the committee. So an advisory role rather than actually doing the drafting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that might. And I don't have language to offer, but I do wonder if maybe those 2 points could be a little more reflective of that intent.
I am happy to work on that language, and we'll have a revised draft before our next meeting.
Great, thanks, John.
Thank you. Any other feedback on the ordinance at this time?
Lots of good stuff.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate that. I will stop sharing my screen. And I just have a couple of other quick updates for you. As you all recall, last month, and many of you were there, we had a Juneteenth event here in Milwaukee on June 19th. It's the first one that we know of held here in Milwaukee, and one of the first held in Clackamas County. There were 2 others held that day. The event was very well attended. It was a very hot day, and so if you see pictures from the back of the park, it doesn't look like anyone's there. It's because everyone was behind in the shade of the large tree. But we had a great crowd, great music, and some wonderful speakers. So I just want to thank all the community members who helped to create and shape that event, and also to the community members who participated and came. That made it a truly special day and an exciting moment for Milwaukee. So we appreciate that. We hope to see more community-led gatherings here in the city. And it was a pleasure partnering on that. I want to particularly just thank Brenna Cruz, our events coordinator, Chief Luke Strait, for being on site and being an amazing resource for us. Officer Mark Enman was on site and spoke with a lot of community members who had just had questions for him, and he did just a fantastic job. So I just want to thank those who helped make that come to fruition. It is a difficult thing to put together events, and I think a lot of our community members realized what a heavy lift it is. Figuring out what our role in doing that as a city going forward will be one of the things we have to balance with our capacity and just how many events we have, and that's a future discussion. But it was a great day and a lot of fun. So I just want to thank everyone for being there and all of you who were in attendance on Juneteenth. And any questions, any thoughts or questions about Juneteenth?
I would just echo what you said, John, all those folks. And the vendors who showed up also did really well and asked to come back if we do it again next year or have any other event. So it was nice that the vendors who came out felt it was a successful event for them.
Well, and it's always hard when people who are actually in charge are the people speaking. So I'm going to just put out there, thank you to Councillor Nicodemus and to John Hennington for the exceptional work. Really well done.
Thanks so much, Ann. And yes, thank you so much, Councillor Nicodemus. And just one last, sorry, Councillor Beatty. Oh, okay. One more update for you all, and that's our internal DEI committee. We have an education subcommittee. They are currently working on a survey for city employees regarding training. A year ago, just right about a year ago, the city began trainings on DEI, particularly around the topic of race. So a year out, as we are looking forward to future trainings, wanted to assess where our staff are, how they're sitting in the discussions we had, and where they've been since, and where they'd like to see us go. So as we take on this work, we want to do it collaboratively with our team. And even though these are difficult conversations, we have a lot of our team who are very much excited and passionate about leaning into these conversations and building on the work that we've done. We'd like to get an assessment of where everyone is, so that we can understand where we need to go in terms of our trainings and other discussions around race and equity, both internally and externally.
Just so people know, we do have money for this year's trainings. So that was a part of some of the changes we made earlier in the year to the budget.
And that is all I have. Are there any questions?
I just want to thank there's one more addition to this. A lot of the equity work is quiet work. It's work that we do every day, and it's a work of culture change, and it's not something that we get to splash out about often. but I can just say I'm so incredibly impressed with the work that John's been leading for the last 7 months. And I just wanted to thank him personally on air for all of that work. It's hard to believe actually how much has been done in 7 months. And I literally could not have done it without him. So thank you, John.
Thank you all.
I think that's actually everything we have, unless people want to talk about anything regarding the equity work tonight. We got through things faster than we expected. Is there anything else that people want to discuss, or are we done?
Not seeing anything.
I think I've got a quiet moment in the crazy and my unstable internet. So I just wanted to just really quick, both Dan and John, for really great, clear presentations today, and also for all of your hard work. I think you clearly have had some really great success in managing lots of these processes and lots of complicated sort of conversations. And both of you are very, very clearly very capable leaders in this work, and I just really appreciate how organized you obviously were, and also just like in your communication. I really, really appreciate how inclusive you are, and you can hear it with almost everything that you talk about, and it's so important. And I think that it really, I think people really. You can hear it in the students who came and talked to us, and I think it's really reflected in how folks are starting to kind of connect with the community in ways that maybe they haven't before. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Anybody else? I couldn't agree more with Angel on all the aspects. You guys are doing extraordinary work, and it's been a hard time to do this work and to do any work, frankly. But you guys have carried it off really well, and we appreciate it very much. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I would say we are adjourned. Have a great night, everyone.